You're watching continuing local news coverage from Colorado's biggest news team. Now, Fox 31 Morning News at 9. We're on it.
Changes have arrived. We've got rain and snow on the way, but it all depends on where you live and the timing. We'll pinpoint it for you coming up.
Plus, we are on it with your local election headquarters. Proposition HH failing by a wide margin. Those details and what comes next just ahead.
I think we both thought the other one was dead.
Absolutely.
A Georgetown couple lucky to be alive after a semi-truck driver hit a bridge and then ran right into their home. This morning, the driver still on the run. We're on it.
And super fog blanketing a highway in Louisiana. Look at that.
Oh, you can't see anything.
Yeah, I guess you're not really looking at much. New video this morning and what exactly happened here in Louisiana. There you go. There's some taillights. Crazy stuff. Just after 9 o'clock. Good to have you guys on a Wednesday morning with some weather to watch. I'm Kirk Yonke.
I'm Ashley Ryan. A lot to get to, so we'll start with our forecast as Kylie is tracking rain and snow in the mix.
Yep, we've got both on the way. Let's start with a live look from your Backus and Schenker camera. Kind of gray out there. Looks like traffic along I-25 is moving nicely. Temperatures this morning are in the low 40s, but it really depends on where you are because we've got 20s to 40s, and of course that makes the difference between rain and snow. Speaking of, let's take a look. Zooming on in, you can see we've got some light rain that's moving through that far northern part of the metro area and then up toward Fort Collins as well, maybe even a few snowflakes in our foothills so far. So that's certainly something we're going to see just off and on throughout your morning. Futurecast, let's time out the actual snow for you, the stuff that might actually stick to the ground. Once we get into this afternoon, we're going to see a rain snow line set up mainly on the south side of the metro area, and then you can see down toward Castle Rock, Monument Hill, and into our southern Front Range foothills. That's where I think it could maybe stack up to an inch or two. But again, it's been so warm these last couple of days in the 70s that I think initially we're going to do a ton of melting here. So here we go, a couple of inches possible. That's kind of the max. We're going to see some actual accumulation though up in our high country. Temperatures this morning in the 40s. We'll talk about what you can expect when this wraps up in just a few.
All right, Kylie, thank you. Want to jump back to breaking news just coming into our newsroom this morning. We are learning that the Penrose Return to Nature funeral home owners have now been arrested. This is where at least 189 bodies were discovered after they were improperly handled. The FBI says John and Carrie Halford were arrested in Wagner, Oklahoma. This on suspicion of 3 felonies: abuse of a corpse, money laundering, and forgery. So again, we've heard from some of the victims of this who thought that they were, given the ashes, cremated ashes of their loved ones, and it turns out were concrete.
Concrete dust, yeah. And we had that big investigation going on at that facility in Penrose, so a lot more to come. You guys know we're going to be on it throughout the day here on Fox and over at kdvr.com.
9:03 now. Fox 31 is your local election headquarters, and developing right now the highly debated state ballot question, Prop HH. We've been talking a lot about this, failing big time.
I think it's safe to say this is probably the issue on the ballot that most people were talking about the most.
For sure.
A lot of people interested in this, and more than 60% of voters voted no to HH that would have stripped money from our Tabor refunds in an effort to limit how much property taxes are raised. Fox 31's Lisa D'Souza, she's on it live this morning, helping us break down what's next, because this isn't over necessarily. Lawmakers have to figure out how to deal with this issue now that HH failed.
Right, and that is obviously a tall task, at least when you talk to lawmakers about this. It seems all but certain that property taxes will be going up according to lawmakers. So the question is by how much? We know Republican lawmakers are calling for an executive session here at the State House to try and hammer out some of the details as to what comes next and get some sort of legislation passed on this. Meantime, let's break down exactly what played out last night. So Proposition HH, it was wordy and it might have been confusing to some. Basically, what it would have done is it would have pulled money from Coloradans' Tabor refunds. That's money that taxpayers get when the state brings in more money than it's allowed to spend. Of course, all in an effort to limit that predicted increase in property taxes. The money would have gone to local governments instead. We talked to both sides of the aisle on this last night as this vote kind of swayed towards the no, with, again, more than 60% of voters voting no on Prop HH. It seems both sides of the aisle are in agreement that something needs to be done.
think that it's likely that there ends up being a special session. I think they want to figure out what that might look like. But I think, it should have the two criteria, that it cuts significantly the bill for next year, but then also sets a cap so that this doesn't happen over and over and over again.
The Colorado Democrats are focused on tax relief for Coloradans, so it's clear the legislature has a lot of work to do. But Proposition II is a good example of how we can win, putting people ahead of corporations, and then by electing local leaders who can help work with their communities to find solutions that work for them.
So now lawmakers basically left scrambling on how to fill this apparent funding gap and avoid, again, those significantly higher property taxes. In a statement from House Minority Leader Mike Lynch, you can see it here on your screen, it calls for an executive session, saying in part Republicans continue to ask that we and the governor correct this fixable property tax mess now. Don't make Coloradans wait any longer. Noting they asked for an executive session last October, proposing 3 bills to tackle this. Meantime, government leadership on this is saying that they are disappointed Prop HH did not pass. Now, we reached out to the governor's office last night to see if an executive session is something he thinks is likely. We have not yet heard back, but of course, we'll update you just as soon as we do. For now, we are live at the State House. Lisa D'Souza, Fox 31.
Definitely a lot more to come on that. You guys know that we'll be covering it for you all along the way. Thank you, Lisa.
Well, it's not just Prop HH, a lot of things to keep an eye on that we've been following for you, specifically frustration with the Denver Public School Board seeming to show itself with election results.
Yeah, a lot of this surrounds school safety for sure, with a lot of the reform candidates winning, beating out the experience of the incumbents. John Youngquist won the at-large seat, which represents the entire city. So he'll replace Ayante Anderson, who did not run for re-election. He announced he's running for a state office. So we got a chance to talk to Youngquist, where he talked about his 35 years of experience within Denver schools and the surrounding districts. Take a listen.
I just think that it's time for a person that is very experienced and passionate about this effort. Somebody that's worked in elementary, middle, and high school and at the district level, somebody that has really been able to work within communities to listen to people, to develop the right actions that create success for our children.
District 5 representing Northwest Denver and District 1 representing Southeast Denver also had some tight battles, with both of the reform candidates in those elections winning as well. Charmaine Lindsay losing her seat to Marlene De La Rosa, who took District 5 with almost 60% of the vote. And in District 1, Kimberly Sia beat out the incumbent Scott Balderman, winning the seat with 56% of the vote.
Well, turning to other statewide ballot measures, voters approving Proposition II, 67% saying yes, 33% rejecting it. That means the state will get to keep surplus tobacco and nicotine tax revenue from these companies that essentially overpaid, and then use that money to expand the universal pre-K program. Be sure to download our Fox 31 News app for the latest election results. We will be running them at the bottom of your screen all morning long.
All right, guys, more breaking news just into our newsroom in the last 15 minutes or so. We now know a hearing has been set for the man accused in the deadly Boulder King Soopers shooting. The hearing is set for November 14th. This comes after multiple hearings surrounding the mental competency of the suspect. We'll be watching what comes from next week's hearing. We'll let you know what happens. We're on it here on Fox 31. But again, big news as to the next hearing in that case. A lot of people anxious for that to move forward. Happening today, it's Ivanka Trump's turn to take the stand in the civil fraud trial case against her father and his company. Ivanka will have to face questions following testimonies by former President Donald Trump and her 2 brothers. The $250 million lawsuit filed by New York's Attorney General accuses the former president and his co-defendants of inflating personal net worth on financial statements in an effort to get better loans and insurance. Ivanka Trump was previously an executive vice president in the Trump Organization. Her lawyers unsuccessfully appealed to block her testimony, claiming the state is harassing her family by forcing her to speak in court.
Brand new this morning, Las Vegas Hotel Workers Union reaching a tentative deal with Caesars, but threats of a strike still loom this morning. The tentative deal is a major breakthrough that could help avert an unprecedented strike at more than a dozen hotel casinos on the Vegas Strip. The announcement comes after several months of tense negotiations and just days before the Culinary Workers Union deadline for a strike. A walkout could still happen if deals aren't reached by Friday morning with MGM Resorts International and Wynn Resorts.
A historic hangar at a former airbase in Orange County, California, up in flames. Look at this. Firefighters said they had no choice but to let it run its course and burn out. New video shows the North Hangar, also known as Hangar 1, engulfed in flames when fire crews first arrived at the Marine Corps Air Station. They immediately went into defensive mode to prevent the flames from spreading to nearby buildings. Look at it, gutted the building though. Officials expect the fire to burn for several days before finally going out. It's still burning this morning. The cause of the fire still under investigation. Nobody was hurt, according to reports. But what a huge fire out there.
Well, this is a talker this morning. New here at 9, Mexico's Congress heard from a controversial journalist, Jose Jamie Mawson, who says that he has proof non-human beings were found in Peru.
You know this guy because he presented the two specimens in September, right? The two alien bodies. But it brought doctors who said the bodies were real. He brought doctors in that said the bodies were real, once living organisms, for the second session. In 2017, Mouseman made similar claims in Peru, but the country's prosecutor's office found the bodies were manufactured dolls covered in a mixture of paper and synthetic glue to simulate skin. So it's unclear if they are the same as those presented to Mexico's Congress, but at least a couple of doctors saying these are the real deal. I don't know. We'll see.
I mean, why not? I don't know.
I mean, there's something out there.
He's a journalist. I don't know. His opinion means a lot more than some Joe Schmo who...
You think so?
Yeah.
Or he's just nuts. 9/11 right now, still ahead at 9. A warning from police on this Wednesday morning.
A local woman out thousands of dollars after thieves quickly stole her cell phone at a grocery store. How they did it.
Tens of thousands of coats will be given away by Dependable Cleaners. What we need? Kids' coats. Kids' coats. The need is great. I'll have details coming up.
And we've got a little rain and snow on the way for different parts of Colorado today. It all depends on where you live, even down to your neighborhood. We'll have your pinpoint weather forecast coming up.